What do you look at as your best accomplishment as an MP in taking the Peterborough Kawartha story to Ottawa?
Yeah, thanks for that question. You know, you're right. Opposition is a very challenging position, especially when you had a coalition, which was ultimately a majority. So elevating the voices of the people, I would say, is the number one issue. And I gained a reputation pretty quickly in Parliament for a lot of people. I'm very fortunate. I've been very vocal in Parliament and in committee. I have a very visible seat behind the leader, Pierre Poilievre of the Conservative Party. And when everybody can access how many times people speak in the House, and mine is, it's significantly higher. I make a joke, Jay. I used to get in trouble for talking too much. Now I get paid to talk too much. But in all seriousness, one of the things that I'm very proud of is I was able to read comments, stories from the people of Peterborough Kawartha into the record. You know, I think one of the biggest things, government can't always fix problems, but feeling heard and ensuring that your problems are known are critical, right? And I think the goal is to not make things worse. We have to make things better. And so elevating those stories and voices, and especially when it comes to victims. I was, in the position in many of the committees I sit on and as a critic for families, children, and social development to question a lot of ministers about the role of the policies that hurt a lot of victims.
This is a letter that I sent to you on December 5th, an email, almost a year ago, by Haley Schultz. You were asked directly, repeatedly. It has been brought up multiple times. Her son, Bradley Pogue, was murdered. You have never acknowledged this letter. It is a public letter. I have all of the correspondence. You have said to my colleague today that you are not going to enforce the Victim Bill of Rights. Will you read this if I walk it over to you, and will you acknowledge her?
What we've seen in the last 10 years is victims' rights have went underneath criminals' rights. And so, we had a local story here, terrible story of a young woman, Selena Taylor, and her attacker and the man who was responsible for her death, he was out on bail.
In my community of Curve Lake, Selena Taylor was a beautiful, beautiful girl. She loved animals, and in the words of her sister, she will forever be missed and celebrated. Selena is now another Indigenous woman who didn't make it home after her intimate partner violently assaulted her. Rest in power, my love. That's her sister, Sage Castell. When he was arrested for attacking Taylor, Jordan Moran was out on bail for a separate 2019 attack. And when he was out on bail in the Selena Taylor case, he was arrested in January 2021 for the alleged assault on another woman in November of 2020. As a final sickening coda, Moran was sprung on bail again in February 2021, just 3 weeks before Taylor died. Over the years, he also did 10 months in the Slammer for assaulting a Good Samaritan who suffered life-changing facial injuries. Today in the House, your response to my colleague to diminish crime in this country was, you said, and I quote, "We delivered bail reform." What would you like to say to Selena Taylor's family about your bail reform that you've delivered?
Also, I think about Eric Roeder, who took his own life in Roeder's Reach and the community grieving. It was one of the most powerful obituaries I'd ever read, where they addressed that his death was by the disease of bipolar.
Eric Roeder, 32, of Apsley, passed on September 25th after a courageous battle with bipolar disorder. We are devastated by this loss and completely unprepared. Eric has impacted the lives of so many people, and to know Eric was to love him. We struggled greatly with Eric in his battle with mental health. We faced roadblocks and lacked resources every step of the way on the path to find him help. That is an excerpt from Eric Roeder's obituary. It is an absolute tragedy that has shook my community. Eric's sister Haley wrote this on her Instagram. I made calls and advocated for my brother up to the hour before he passed. When Eric went manic, I called every crisis line for support and none was given. This must change. Everyone knows there is a crisis. The system failed Eric and his friends. We must prioritize mental health. We must fix this broken system.
And I thought that was so brave of the family. But, the wait list to get mental health help, the wait list for addiction, there's no access to treatment and recovery. And so we have to have access to these things. And you can't fix anything if you don't acknowledge it. Jay. You know, you can't manage what isn't acknowledged. And so I think that's key. But locally too, showing up. I think that's the most thing. I remember when I was canvassing in 2021, people said, we want an MP who shows up. And, you know, I try to go to everything that I'm invited to. I try to, you know, I always say I will phone anyone back. Even if we're not on the same political team, Jay, it shouldn't matter, right? We got to talk to each other. People phone me, happy to chat with them, happy to go to as many things as possible, but also our office, the mandate, the mission statement from me is service. We live in a world where customer service has so degraded. You can't get a person on the phone. You know, government services, we've never paid so much in taxes in our life and had such terrible service, you know? And so we try at my office very succinctly to help every single person that walks through that office. And even if it isn't our area, because some people really get the different levels of government confused. Can you fix my garbage? Right. It's okay. We'll hopefully connect you to who you need to have instead of saying, nope, that's not my problem. Go somewhere else. You know, I think we just need a lot more connection in customer service. And we've been very proud. We have outstanding numbers of the service we've provided in my office.